Hello and welcome to another episode of the Smaulgld Subscribers Sound Off series. Today we have a returning guest, financial journalist Kevin Hicks, and today we're going to talk about cryptocurrencies, ICOs, and of course gold and possibly silver. Kevin, how are you doing today?
Doing all right, sir. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing grand, Kevin. Thanks for joining me again. Kevin, I know you follow not just the cryptos. A lot of people follow Bitcoin and Litecoin, gold, silver. And a lot of people do follow, but not many of my listeners follow the ICO markets. They seem a bit more esoteric, a bit more risky. Can you first, before we get into discussing any ICOs, which for our listeners are initial coin offerings, which have burgeoned in value of the number of offerings and the value of them versus traditional initial public offerings, which involve companies going public and raising capital. Can you give us a quick overview of the difference between a cryptocurrency that uses a currency and an ICO, initial coin offering?
Yes, sir. As far as cryptos, those are pretty much, it can be implemented or put out there in any number. You don't have to have an ICO to present cryptos to anybody. Like recently, there was a company named Tron. They had recently, instead of a ICO, they did an airdrop, complete opposite. They dropped 500 Tron coins off in everybody's account that was on liquid.io. As far as cryptos go, they already come with a base number, a base circulation. Most of them, not all of them, pretty much already have their roadmaps written out. With ICOs, it's a plan coming in, kind of like similar to the internet boom, as Alan Greenspan would try to compare it to the dot-com era or the housing bubble. And what it is you got all these people, sometimes they would see the ideas of another crypto. So far as with Quantum. Quantum is a cryptocurrency. They recently had an ICO in the beginning of the year, and they came with a fresh idea, combining both the blockchain of Bitcoin and combining smart contract abilities of Ethereum. And recently, after they had went mainstream with their blockchain of their own and also went out with their wallets, we recently saw another crypto pop up that had an ICO, which was called FBTC, a combination of F and BTC. But the thing is, they didn't have a roadmap at all. Their website was poorly put together, and there was no set price or 5-year projection plan on their whole idea. So anybody with money can pretty much make an ICO. And honestly, because of this irrational exuberance that exists today, especially since after the '08 and '09 years during the whole financial crisis, it only gotten stronger since then, because now you got people that's like, hey, I can make a quick buck too, or you got people that's trying to jump up from that. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry.
No, what I want to ask is, in an ICO, what are you buying versus what you might be buying when you purchase Bitcoin or Litecoin, which are cryptocurrencies? What's the difference between your ownership interest and what are you going to get as a result of holding either a cryptocurrency or initial coin offering token?
As far as say for difference with buying Bitcoin and Ethereum and then buying an ICO token, the
Mm-hmm.
fact is those ICO tokens aren't generally given out the same time that you buy them. Sometimes they can be held for 6 months to a year, if not longer, and then released to the investors that invested in them. As far as buying Bitcoin and Ethereum, which is available right now, you can get your item or what you plan on purchasing at that very point in second. With ICOs, you're just purchasing a promise in a part of the plan that's been built on. Most of these ICOs don't even have a running active like product,
Mm-hmm.
and some of them aren't even in alpha nor beta. So it's just
So you're buying an idea, a token for the idea, but do you get an ownership interest in that company?
with some of them you do, and then with some you do not. As far as with the SEC regulations that's been currently going on, some ICOs have been trying to adhere to the rules and regulations of them, so they wouldn't be shut down. And what it is what's a good way to put this? Pretty much, they don't have to promise that you're buying into ownership. So
So what are you buying then if you're not? See, when you buy into a company, you get a share in the company in a
yes, with
traditional
the
initial
normal.
IPO, correct? And in an
Yes, sir.
ICO, you may not get an ownership interest, and I believe the reason they do that, Kevin, is to avoid saying that they're issuing a security, which means that you're getting an ownership interest in the company. So to avoid the SEC, they try to avoid the regulations and the registration requirements. They try to give you something else to entice you so they can raise money. But what is that something else?
And pretty much, I'll say, for example, kind of like during Quantum's ICO period, all the way up to their mainnet release. During that small gap in between, they had released an ERC20 token, pretty much that allowed people to access their shares that they had bought in with the company until the company went full live with their mainnet. And then so that allowed people to switch in their ERC or promissaries for the real deal or ownership inside the tokens in the company. But inside most companies' white papers, they make it clear that purchase of a crypto through their ICO does not mean that you also get a share inside the company. Some are just based off of exposure to the price valuation. Say, for instance, and then sometimes those cryptocurrencies aren't even connected to the value of the company itself.
Right.
So, say for instance, if Felicia ICO ended up being a big boom success, they sold all their cryptocurrency, they were able to start the company, get it rolling, and implementing these actual buildings in what they want to do. At the end of the day, the price of the crypto can still be $1. While the company itself has grown by $100 million in a week or something.
So the way they structure these ICOs is basically you know what you're getting, but you're not getting what you traditionally get when you quote invest in a company. Now, when you have a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin or Litecoin, you could take that cryptocurrency in theory or in practice and go and spend it. But when you have a token for an ICO for a company, I don't even know the name. Well, forget 10x for a minute, but let's say an ICO that just has one of these tokens where they're going to give you something at some future point. What can you do? What can you do with that ICO token? Can you spend it?
With some ICO tokens, depending on which one they are, as far as if they're coins, tokens, if they're ERC-based tokens, or just a fork of Bitcoin, which we all know Bitcoin has had 2 or 3 forks this year.
Right.
And after you receive that token, it's accessible sometimes on the exchanges that the ICO or company has made an agreement with for you to start trading it. So that's one source of income that you can get by trading that token. But as far as its real company implementation, sometimes that can be years to months to decades out. A good example would be Omissions. It's popular amongst a lot of people and it's gained a lot of traction since their ICO, but it's the fact they don't have their own wallet. They're still ERC20 based, so you can hold them on any Ethereum wallet, which pretty much says that, yes, I bought into this company, but if Ethereum fails, then Omissions fails, because until they get their blockchain started or until they get their own wallet started, it's pretty much just investing inside of a side block or a side blockchain. Yes, blockchain.
So would it be correct to say that initial coin offerings, if you view Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies as speculation, that these are speculation within speculation?
Yes, and most of the time those speculations are driven by irrational exuberance, as I stated earlier. And a good example would be certain people on the internet, mainly on YouTube. Say, for instance, I hate saying names, but there's a guy.
Then just call it a guy.
All right, there's a guy well known inside the journalist field that works for a certain company, and most of his investment advice is just buy Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin. You're a loser if you don't buy Bitcoin. You're missing out. Bitcoin to 10,000, Bitcoin to 20,000.
Right.
That is psychology, and people like Robert Shiller, Peter Schiff, Alan Greenspan, like I stated earlier, has spoken many times on negativities of shilling or acting on irrational exuberance.
Right.
And he
That's correct.
Yes, and they stated, especially Robert Shiller, he's been right on many occasions as far as predicting the tech bubble, the housing bubble, and he's even recently cautioned about the Bitcoin bubble. Most people just would say there is no bubble there if there's demand there, but you really don't know where the demand is coming from. Is it coming from just the 1% that owns most of it? Kind of like we would argue with fiat currency. Some Bitcoin holders, they would say, oh, fiat currency is going to die because only 1% hold a majority of it and the rest of it is fighting for scraps.
Right.
And then you would also get someone that said from the Bitcoin camp that would say Bitcoin is better than gold because gold is being controlled and held down. Well, that's the same with Bitcoin, because when you look at these wallets, when an ICO or an exchange, a coin company first create their coin to get listed on exchanges, they have to dump a large amount to that exchange. That exchange then dumps that coins onto the market, and sometimes that would cause a big sharp drop inside the price itself.
So here's my question. When you have an ICO, it sounds to me that you cannot value an ICO. You mentioned in the pre-call, some of them don't even have projections. They have a white paper. You're basically taking a flyer and you're saying this thing, whatever it is, may hit. And so I'm going to just allocate a small amount of money, pure speculation. The difference, what I'm trying to, and I'm comfortable with that, that's what that is, that ICOs are pure speculation. Some of them may be more defined in what they're trying to do, like 10x. What they're trying to do with 10x is provide they're trying to provide an ability to take your cryptocurrencies, put them onto a Visa card, so they've made that arrangement with Visa, and then be able to spend them. That's clear cut what they're doing there. I get that, but and it's still hard to value whatever that is. But how does one? This is what I'm trying to figure out. How does one value Bitcoin, Litecoin, and in fact, the Bitcoin-Litecoin ratio, if they're both like the same thing, there's no rhyme or reason between those. So how does one even say that Bitcoin is overvalued at $100, $1,000, $10,000? How do people even make projections on where the price should be?
Well, the first part is some people like to compare the prior years of Bitcoin's price. Sometimes when it came from below $10 when it first started out, probably way lower than that. I wasn't around during that time, up to 200, 300, 5, 8, and then finally up to where it is now, skipping in between. But it's the fact that it's only been compared to fiat currency. There's really nothing holding Bitcoin to the value that it is, except the fact that it's been traded at high volume on the markets. And we really don't know what it is it's trading at. It can be between banks. It can be between the same people that were trying to escape the fiat currency jail out from. So if the government decide for whatsoever they don't want fiat being a part of the cryptocurrency, then what will we stick Bitcoin's value to?
Well, here's another question. So basically, the ICOs would have to be valued eventually, rationally, on whatever they produce, assuming you get an ownership interest in it. Otherwise, I don't know what you get. But so cryptocurrencies have to be valued not on the basis of income or how well they're doing, I suppose. How do you actually value a cryptocurrency? Do you value it versus fiat currencies? I suppose that's where they're deriving their value today, Kevin. What do you think?
It depends on the ICO and the coin and idea that they're offering. There's some ICO.
I'm sorry. I'm talking about cryptocurrencies, not the ICO. We know you have to value those based on either thin air or what that ICO company might do. I'm questioning, how do you value whether Bitcoin or Litecoin, what's the value in them? How do you know whether it's overvalued, undervalued? If they don't have earnings, what is the basis for saying that it's in a bubble, it's not in a bubble? What's the case? How does one actually say Bitcoin should be $3,000, $8,000, $10,000, zero? What is the base case?
I like to compare Bitcoin or Litecoin and the ones you named to what's currently available in the real world use in society. As far as Bitcoin, it's currently being implemented into some ATMs, and then of course being used in certain countries. But it's the fact that it still has years to go of development itself to become a sound currency for us to use as a whole. Because currently Bitcoin has too many flaws as far as the blockchain speed, as far as a small percentage being able to control the price of it at any given moment, making it too unpredictably volatile. And then Litecoin, when it comes to that, it's more stable, less volatile, but at the end of the day, it gets most of its price from speculation and the price of Bitcoin as well, as some, not all altcoins do. And since they're both
with Litecoin, though, it sounds like everything I've heard, Litecoin is more stable, doesn't have the forks, doesn't have the drama.
Yes, sir.
It only has 4 times the amount of coins, it's faster, and yet it trades, instead of 4 times less than Bitcoin, it trades at 100 times less. Is there any rationale to that?
No rationale at all. It's irrational completely. And then all it comes down to is speculation, hype, and just having the right people in your corner for a good marketing. Like currently throughout this whole year, because we realized that I think it was last December to January, Bitcoin hit from 800 to into the $1,000 brackets.
Right.
And then throughout the rest of the year, there was really no technical development. All there really was just conversations and altercations between the developers within the camps. There was promises of forks, which is pretty much no different than stimulus package from the Federal Reserve or quantitative easing. Like, if you tell me that all I have to do is buy this currency and you will drop $300 to $500 free into my account, then yes, I'll do it.
Absolutely.
And as soon as I get it, I'm going to sell it and then buy what I originally wanted to buy. And that's what pretty much gave Bitcoin its value over the year, is the fact that these forks gave people free money to put back into Bitcoin. And so it really doesn't have a set value. It's just the fact that money's just been thrown at it.
So if you have to guess then, if that's how it's valued, and I don't disagree, it's money being thrown at it, will money continue to be thrown at Bitcoin, Litecoin, cryptocurrencies, and ICOs?
As far as with Bitcoin, it'll continue as long as some people believe that it's the only option inside cryptos, because I've come across a lot of investors that didn't know about the other 1,000 different types of cryptocurrencies and only knew of Bitcoin because of the people that brought them into cryptocurrencies. And it's kind of like that in a way. I'm not calling Bitcoin a Ponzi scheme, but I'm saying that way of introducing people into something good is Ponzi scheme-ish of itself, because you take away the trust of it. Because once they find out, because a lot of people that did recruit into the Bitcoin camp, they always voiced on the fact that, oh, it's untraceable, you can do this with it, you can do that. And it's the fact, once you start really looking into it for yourself and you start to get into full-time crypto trading, you realize that some of the things that you were brought into Bitcoin about were lies.
Well, and that's true also with the precious metals too. I mean,
most definitely.
When people promote, you never can trust somebody. It's like a used car salesman. Someone's selling cars, you have to take it with a grain of salt. Someone selling real estate, it's always the best time to buy, best time to sell.
Yeah, you gotta always make sure they're not the one that's benefiting off of letting you know the information that they want you to know.
Exactly. Well, let's move on now to gold, because I want to get your opinion, and there's no right answers on this, but a lot of people in the crypto areas, they claim the reason that Bitcoin was invented, they claim what the purpose of it is that it's intended to be digital gold. And then, of course, taking that analogy, Litecoin was created intended to be digital silver to Bitcoin's digital gold. The question is that a correct way of looking at what Bitcoin is?
Honestly, no. The best way to look at Bitcoin is just another form of fiat, or just a currency of its own. Comparing it to gold would be illogical inside many points because of the usage factor, the length of how long it's been around. Not only is it good as a monetary thing, but it's also good inside electronics, as far as phones, computers, jewelry. You can use it inside dentistry, aeronautics, because we use it inside satellites. Sometimes it's lubricants, because of the natural lubricants, when they get hit by the sun, they dissipate. And then you have some forms of gold that's used for rheumatoid arthritis and even cancer treatment. And then as far as the projection on, I'll get to that part later, but as far as gold right now, Bitcoin can't be compared, because Bitcoin is still trying to catch up to gold. As far as, you still have these other altcoins that's like certain ICOs, they're saying that their crypto is now backed by the gold standard, or they have real physical gold that backs your buying of the crypto. So if you want to trade that crypto in for the equal amount of gold, you can. So my question is, why hasn't Bitcoin implemented this into their system if they can implement everything else? And it
sounds like, Kevin, it sounds like the first point you made was that the gold has the intrinsic value with use outside of it being traded for money.
Yes.
Okay, the next one is, it sounds like you're saying that Bitcoin requires all this development. Does gold require any development?
Gold requires no development. What it requires at most is being dug out of where it is, and depending on what you want to use it for.
Right.
Say, for instance, if you want to make jewelry, you can add different alloys to it, as far as silver or platinum or anything else, to give it that, so it doesn't fall under pressure, because gold is very malleable.
That's right, and that's why they add copper to the coins to make them last longer. And I saw an article about how the ancient Colombians used to like rose-colored gold. They add some copper to it. But what you're saying is that gold is immutable, that there's no, you really don't improve on it. You can add it to other stuff, you can shape it, but it doesn't require additional work to make it any
Yeah,
better than it is.
I would kind of compare gold to like the flour or the ingredients that go into making bread. Like you can make different types of products with that flour, but at the end of the day, that flour will always just be flour. You can make pies, cakes, cupcakes. The same with gold. You can make jewelry. You can press it into wiring, sheet metal. You can, like I said, turn it into what medical uses.
Right.
But at the end of the day, that gold is going to always be gold. Once you change a code in Bitcoin, it is no longer Bitcoin. It becomes the branch of itself, like Litecoin.
Right.
Litecoin is actually a branch of Bitcoin. So that's how that works. And then actually there's other types like Dogecoin. It's like worth
Dogecoin with the dog, yes.
Yeah, it's worth less than a cent, but yet its same technological advancements is the same exact as Bitcoin. It's just the marketing of it and the number of coins out in circulation.
Right. So let me ask you. So Bitcoin and Litecoin are almost identical, correct?
Yes, sir.
But gold and silver, they like to make that comparison, but is gold really like silver?
Gold really isn't like silver because you can always find gold inside the earth, but silver is a byproduct.
Well, what I mean is as what it is. I mean, silver is completely different than gold, even in color. It's not the exactly. It's a totally different animal. And
yes.
You know, I guess the connection between gold and silver is that they both have some type of monetary use, but they both have totally different properties. That's why one is gold and one is silver. But Bitcoin and Litecoin just seem to be variants of the same code.
And that's all it really completely is. One small change in the code, which some people can argue, all right, well, if you change the atomic structure of gold, it's no longer gold. But you know how much
go ahead and do that.
Yeah, you know how much work it takes into doing that? Good luck. Exactly. And then if that's possible, you can also change whatever it was that gold came from to create more gold, but you can't create more gold out of what it was. Say, for instance, if you remove something to make it into silver, you can't add something to silver to turn it back into gold. Otherwise, we would have an infinite amount of gold everywhere. We could just alchemize anything into gold, even lead.
Exactly. So, Kevin, with all this background now, where do you see, let me phrase this correctly, as a store of value, do you see cryptos or gold or silver as the long-term, not in the past, is a long-term store of value? That's the first question. Answer that one, please.
Okay, do I see both or just one or the other?
Or you could see both if you think there's both. Not a leading question. It's just a question.
All right. As far as with the question of crypto and gold, yes, I do see them both being able to hold long-term value in the long run. There's certain companies like DigiX, which looks to implement the gold standard and amount to their crypto so that it doesn't like become too volatile like the price of Bitcoin or anything else would. If you was to say Bitcoin and gold, I would honestly choose gold over Bitcoin as far as being a long-term store of value. Like it's easier to make money off Bitcoin if you want to be an investor to just want to get out there and make money. But if you're building in the long term and you want to actually consolidate something of value and create something out of your portfolio, I would say gold would be a good amount to keep inside of it.
So gold is an anchor, is what you're saying, and then the cryptos are more speculative?
Yes, crypto is for the fast buck speculation. It will always be there. They can always implement certain things that would make it comparable to gold, but gold will always be just gold until gold has to be compared to something else.
Yeah, I see. Right now, where do you see silver in this scheme?
Honestly, I always see silver it's going to always be around. It's used medical wise as well. It's used inside. It's used for some of the same things that gold is, but sometimes gold's necessities are, what's the word?
It's too expensive to use in a lot of stuff.
It is expensive. That's why it's one of those use sparingly type metals that they use. But they actually see gold being used for the next 5 years, like heavily more than what it was, because it's just over the last decades that we started implementing gold the way we did inside certain things.
It wasn't used in space before because we weren't going into space, right? So where do you see?
It wasn't.
Go ahead.
I was about to say it wasn't using cell phones neither, but now on every cell phone that's created, it has at least 50 cents worth of gold inside of it.
Or solar panels for silver. We weren't using silver for that purpose. We were using it for photography, and we don't use it for photography anymore. So it's a very versatile metal. Now, final question before we wrap up here. as to the overall monetary system, I know you've commented a lot on this in the past. You've got your views on the monetary system. Where do you see a role, if any, for either cryptocurrencies, gold, or silver in a future monetary system? Will they be subsumed? Will they be on the periphery? Will they not be part of the monetary system at all?
Right now, the monetary system is up for grabs. You have one side of the hemisphere talking about how they want to just, some of them are adopting the cryptocurrency way, but they're adopting it so that the central bank takes hold of the wheel.
Which is no different, really. I mean, that's just changing how they put out their fiat. Putting it on the blockchain doesn't
exactly.
Really change it. Okay.
And then there's the other side who wants to actually implement gold into being asset related. So say, for instance, there's LA token. They believe that they want to implement a Da Vinci painting. They want to make it so that its price is only shown inside LA token price. And then you can use those LA tokens to accrue that painting if you wanted to. As far as the long-term hold of it, well, Bitcoin or gold again?
Sorry. Either one. I mean, do you see that Bitcoin would, in any way, shape, or form, either be part of the monetary system or subsumed at least to the banking payment system?
I know Ron Paul was speaking how he would love to return to the gold standard because he believed that it was like the best time during America's history where we actually had a sound system with our currency. The dollar was pegged to something. There was nothing to just create dollars out of thin air. If we can return to that, honestly, I think it would take a lot of talking points from the crypto field, because the only reason that the crypto field does exist at this moment is because it's been allowed to exist, and also the fact that dollar isn't exactly doing what it's supposed to be doing right now, and it's just been printed to infinity.
Yeah, well, wasn't cryptocurrency supposedly invented around the same time that the financial crisis hit and QE was being implemented as a reaction? That's one story. Other people think it was created by the CIA, but if it was created by that way, that is why cryptocurrencies, in some sense, have gained traction as a reaction against the debt-based monetary system, which hasn't gotten any better since 2008. The U.S. has done a few rounds of QE. Now Japan's doing QE. ECB is doing QE. China.
Now Bitcoin is doing a QE.
Well, there you go. So do you think though that that gold will become part of the monetary system, or do you think that countries are too far interested in debt to ever even think about going back to, or will they be forced to go back to gold?
Honestly, I'll say that can't really be 100% answered until the dust settles. But right now, I can see a lot of countries themselves and governments are leaning toward more of a gold-based system, and then you have the companies and the people itself moving toward of a crypto-based system. So it really just comes down to regulations and laws and how they want to move from there.
Like, because they're all having different. If you look around, they're all having different regulatory views on it. Japan is fully regulated cryptos. China shut them down. We don't know what's going on in the U.S.
And then the thing with crypto in China is it wasn't exactly shut down. It was just the fact that they've become stricter on the ICOs there, because like what we stated earlier, some of these ICOs are getting out of hand with what they're offering. Right. And too many people are losing money because some of the ICOs have like literally vanished with people's monies. A good example would be Tezos, TEZOS. And they're having trouble right now with some of the founders and people that participated inside the ICO with their money being missing. Another thing about ICOs is since it's not on a blockchain yet and your money is on their website or whatever they hold your funds in, it can be easily hacked until it's put into a secure wallet or something that you hold. So ICOs will always be susceptible to the same thing that fiat currency is susceptible to until there is a better way of regulating it and controlling these companies that just randomly come in with no promise of backing people's money that they put in. That's what China's trying to stop. At the same time, I will say that China isn't the holy grail. At the same time, they're trying to control it to an extent as well, too. But it comes from the West, and people don't remember that the West started implementing these stricter regulations before China even thought about doing it itself. China just recently got on board because of certain companies. They would do a name change just to avoid certain regulations or just to accrue more money when they've been around for 3 or 4 years but haven't even implemented their first part of the roadmap or second part yet, or given on the promises that people want initially went in on.
Well, Kevin, thank you very much for the knowledge on the ICOs, the gold, the monetary system, the cryptocurrencies. It's been a real pleasure, and I hope to have you on again soon. And where can they reach
Thank.
you? Do you have a website? I know you have a YouTube channel. Tell our listeners where they can reach you there.
I'm normally on Twitter. Page name is Lamont, and then I also have a small media page that I have on Facebook, Synopsis Media. But I'm planning on implementing my own website within the next couple months once I finish building a website and coding with GoDaddy and a couple other people. And hopefully I would like to bring to people the non-biased part of both investing inside crypto, fiat, and precious metals without just being given one source of what to go into. Because with precious metals, there are other metals that are coming into light besides gold and silver. You have zinc, and you have a couple other ones, even copper, that has been gaining in value recently.
There's cobalt and lithium. Well, Kevin,
exactly.
when you get that site up and going, why don't we plan to reconnect then, and we can talk about the launch of your site? How's that sound?
Definitely, sir.
All right. Thanks, Kevin.
All right. Thank you.